Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook live broadcast. Today, I'm here with, I got to get this right, psychotherapist Foojan Zeine to talk about, am I ready to be a parent? Working through our internal questions for step parents, adoptees, and new parents. So, Foojan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. It's so nice to be with you and everyone else today.
Oh, it's great to be with you again. We had you on, I don't know, about a year ago, and just great stuff. And everyone here at Pacific Cascade Legal and our clients just love that, and it's just great information. So we have another topic, and it was a mouthful. And so let's kind of talk about it, because some people might say that, you should just know if I'm ready. I mean, I should just know, but that's not really true, is it?
Not really. I've been a psychotherapist for over 30 years, and I've worked with families individuals who uh, come to become a family, and sometimes they choose to have children without being married. So it's a process that obviously, from an evolutionary perspective, it's here for us to take on. Our genetics says you're ready. And I think part of why people think psychologically they're ready is because their genetics tells them, hey, biological clock is kicking and you should be ready. But that's very different than psychologically and life style and what we do. Some people are really keen in creating their career, and the time that they have to develop their career might not allow them to have become a full-on parent at that time. So there's so many variants there that people really need to start looking at and see what's important for them. I think one of the most important factor is that you got to be ready for yourself. Being ready for yourself means that your life is going to change, where from here on, you're going to be giving service and prioritizing another human being for, let's say, minimum the next 20 years, and then you're going to have somebody in your life forever. So there's a shift of paradigm, Steve, that happens from
Yeah.
me thinking about me and priority, all of that, to first we go, become a family and we're a mate. So it's like interdependent, but still we could do our own stuff sometimes. And then suddenly a child comes to our house, and now it becomes involved around the family and the service and everything else that we have to give to the child. So one thing is that being ready, right? From individualism to a family oriented concept. Should I go on or?
No, I love that, because it kind of comes back to being okay sometimes to be undecided. And I was listening to something you were talking about that, and it's like, if you can accept that you're not sure yet, then there's a lot of insight you can actually open yourself up to, because you're not like locked into one thing.
Yeah.
And so, you know, are there any sort of, I want to say, adoption specific questions that you can ask yourself? I mean, what do you start if you're not sure? What do you start to ask yourself to kind of figure out? And it can be, if you're going to adopt, if you're going to become a step parent, if you're going to have your own kid. I mean, there's questions. Are there questions you can kind of start having your conversation with yourself about?
The first question is, why do I want to have a child? Do I want to have a child because I want somebody, I want to clone myself? That's not going to happen. Just letting you know, they're not going to be your clone. Do I want a child because I want my legacy and my name to be there forever? I want a child because I want to care for someone and have this experience of caring. I want our, family name to continue, go on. There's so many different reasons where people really want to have a child. I had a great childhood, so I want to give it to somebody else. So why do I want to have a child? Why do I want to be a parent? The second part is that um, what type of a childhood did I have? And is there any traumas or unfinished businesses or things that I need to go through to complete with whatever it was and go through that process. Many times when people have been traumatized and they haven't taken care of themselves, when they have a child at each age that the child is growing, when they hit the years that they got traumatized, all of their trauma comes back for them. So it's much better for them to go ahead and create that and really complete with whatever it was in the past. The third concept is, am I ready to be a parent? Meaning, do I have the skills to be a parent? Sometimes we just look at, I was parented by great parents and I'm just going to follow through and do whatever they did. It doesn't work. What happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago does not necessarily work today. So because environment is changing, our children right now are in need or are in need of a lot of different things that are facing different things. So it's important to get trained like anything else in our lives, to start taking parenting classes, start reading about parenting, looking at the latest parenting research that is out there, and they've been working to get ourselves prepared for that. The other part is my body ready for pregnancy? If I'm the one who's carrying it, is my body ready for pregnancy? Do I drink alcohol and use drugs? Smoke cigarettes? Can I get my body ready for bringing another human being? And also for the fathers to also, are their body, clean so that they can pass on their genes? Are they, drug free and have a good nutrition and all of that? So it's the preparation of creating your body and your psyche and your skills and your information to move forward for people who are having their own child. If you are becoming a step parent, knowing the duality, learning about the dualities of your role, if the biological parent is still alive and around, and where are the boundaries that you could be, coming in, and what type, are you living with them all the time? Are you going to be an authority in the house? And this kind of blended family of how to start and how to blend is a delicate process that might, I always suggest, at that time to go to a counselor, to someone who's expert in blended family, and they'll prepare you. They'll prepare everybody in how to bring this all together. And then the same thing for adoption. I think it's more important to ask yourself, what are the components? Is our household ready? Do we have the room? Is our finances ready? It's not, it's not a joke to have a child in your world and then having to invest, for the next 20 years in their life. Do I need to get my finances ready? If I'm a career person, can I create the timeline where if I'm having an infant coming or a child coming into my life, that it's not a hobby, that I'm going to have my 48 or 40 to 60 hour practice. I'm doing all of these pieces and, I'm just going to feed them and then put them to bed and it's done. No. It's a full and a half time job for both parents. And if you're a single parent, then you got to really get your support around you, whether they're family members or friends, bringing all of the support around you so that you can allocate enough time, not only for yourself, but for your child.
That seems like a big one. And I imagine you get these kind of questions, well, what can I do because I don't want to give this up, or I don't want to give that up. And even then back to your body and stuff, it's like, I come in and I say, well, do I really have to give up wine? I mean, are there things that, preparing yourself to have a different lifestyle has got to be difficult.
Yes, it is difficult. And like anything else, right? Like, for example, when I was going to school or you were going to school and trying to create a career for ourselves, there are things we consistently give up. And we put them on a scale and say, the benefit of going through this is this. And yes, I got to give up these. And most of the time, the benefit of gaining something is higher. And therefore, it pulls us through and we'd be willing to let go of another part of our life. Sometimes we put a part of our life on the side for a period of time only because we want to achieve something. So we're choosing the new way, and we'll go through the grief of, letting something go, but we're choosing something that has more value for us. So if we could put the value on creation of whatever it is that we're doing, and we're moving, getting our body ready or changing our lifestyles for a while, and then we can always get it back. And yes, you get it back 10 years later or 20 years later. And this piece in the middle, you need to feel and experience that it has so much more value and benefit for you to not resent it and really move forward with changing the style of your life. And it is truly a life change. This is not something you go back. It's not like, I'm going to have them for 20 years, 18 years, then they'll go off to college and I don't have to worry. I don't know any parent that doesn't worry for their kids, even when their kids are 50 years old.
Are there some worries, because you're talking now, that either are more common that you hear from your clients, or are more difficult to work through?
The one worry that I've heard all the time, I've never heard a parent not have this, is, am I a good enough parent? That question is always there. And your children will test that consistently. I always say, children come to our life in a sense to teach us how to love unconditionally outside of ourselves. And then when they become a teenager, they'll teach us how to be on integrity, because everything you tell them not to do, they're going to be in your face and saying, you did it, how come I can't? So, these are the teaching, these are learnings that we're going to get as, each stage they're going to go higher. So definitely, am I a good parent will always be there, especially around 8 or something, that the kids are going to be telling you, I hate you because you're not giving me something. So that's going to be consistently in your face, where you're giving all of the service, and the appreciation doesn't show up necessarily until way, 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 way later, if it does. So another worry is always about, I'm responsible for the human being that I brought to the world, or I'm taking care of. And because I'm responsible, what if something goes wrong? What if, I can't protect them fully? And I think these kind of anxiety are so much of an existential anxiety, and they're always there. So just be prepared for them. That there's no answer for them. It's more just coming and landing and saying, I'm doing the best I can. I'm learning every day. I'm going to get help. I'm going to get support. And every single parent has just done the best that they could do. And I'm going to do the best that I can do. I'm not going to harm anybody intentionally, but if I accidentally hurt or harmed my child, or I wasn't there for them if they get harmed, I can, apologize. I can learn from it. And it's like giving ourselves permission to be human. We're not going to be perfect.
That is I think what people need to hear, and are rarely able to tell themselves, that you'll never be ready. I mean, it seems to me, at least going through what, my parenting, even if you think you're ready, there are going to be things. And so you don't have to tell yourself, okay, now I've gone through all this and I'm finally ready. It seems like there's so much more to that. And when they come to a problem, they can always come to you. I mean, it's not like, okay, I'm just here for your pre-birth issues or your pre-adoption issues. I mean, that's a learning experience that goes on for a lifetime, isn't it?
Yes, but I also want to get this myth out that just because I'm ready does not mean I'm not going to be anxious. You're going to be ready and you're going to be anxious. because you're stepping into a whole new world. And I think everybody knows between their first child and second child and third child, obviously you're going to be the most anxious on your first child. You've never been there before, so everything is new. By the third child, you're like, oh, I got this. I know how to do this, and it just becomes much easier. So yes, you could be ready. And again, what we talked about, what areas you need to look at to get yourself ready are physically, psychologically, financially, spatially, resource-wise. All of those you can say, okay, I'm ready. Now, you're still going to be anxious, and you're still going to be so many new things are going to come to your world, and it's an on-the-job training. I remember seeing this poster that this chimp was going like this, kind of scratching their head and hanging on. And it said at the bottom, said parenting, it's like they give you the questions. It takes you a while to finally figure out the answer. By the time you figured out the answer, they change all the questions. And this is almost like, you have a 2-year-old, you haven't figured out all the stuff about the tantrum and this and that. And by the time, like, I got it. This is the way I'm going to handle my 2-year-old. They're going to be 3 and it's going to be completely something else. And then they're going to be a teen, completely something else. And they're a young adult and they're moving on. And you're like, okay, finally. No, now we got other pieces to get them. So you could see that you're growing with your children. And if you have different ones, you're going to be growing with each one of them in a different way every day. So it is an on-the-job training, but you're not alone. This is not something you're taking on alone. The world is doing this also. The science is consistently looking at this and helping you and sharing with you. So just be open to this. And more than anything, enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. What about, or do you see issues that arise not with the person, but let's say with their partner, or even with the potential step kids? How does that kind of fit into the whole, getting ready part of it? Are there sort of special things that they should be aware of, or ways to handle, what if I come in and you say, well, my partner just isn't sure, and so I don't want to do anything. I mean,
having children is not good for your marriage. Just letting everybody know. The ratio is that the sexual activity goes out pretty much 50% by the time you have your first child. By the second child, it goes up about 90%. There's a lot of conflict that happens where in disciplining and taking care of children, there's a lot of arguments where the couple didn't even have arguments, or they were okay handling it. And then when the child comes, they both become so in tune about how it needs to be. And each partner kind of follows how they grew up in their household, and they're bringing subconsciously that kind of a parenting to the house. So it's important for the couples to also know they have a part that is being a lover, that's how they got together, being the lover, and they have to separate that being a lover from their parenthood. So it's important to create like date night for each other, times for each other that is just the two of them, which parents forget. The minute a child comes in, the whole household becomes a family unit, and they lose their couplehood unit. So it's important to be able to do that. When two people come from such a different background of parenting, it's important to align their parenting and sometimes take the third type of parenting, which the science offers you. You can read the latest parenting skills that are out there and utilize them instead of fighting over, when I was growing up, my mother did this, and the other one says, no, when I was growing up, this is the way, and they keep constantly getting into a fight with each other. So it's important to study together in how to be a parent, align with each other in how to do that, and that's important. And it's okay to be different, but just align in directions and directives that you're going to be giving your children, or they're going to get confused. Step parenting and blended is a little bit different because they're already used to a style of parenting. it's also different, whether you walked into this family when they were very little and they can take you in also as an adult who's going to be a disciplinarian and a caretaker for them, or you're walking in their life when they're a teenager or a little bit older. That's a whole different dynamic, that you could come in as a friend and a mentor, but you're not going to be their parent. So it's a very delicate move to come in, because you're just going to face a lot of resistance and rebelliousness if you're just going to come in and, assert yourself as a parent where they haven't assigned you as one.
That kind of, I think I was reading something here, I think you called it these, like, responding to forces outside. There's all these other things that push, and how, I don't know if there's a best way, but how can people kind of handle, oh, my mom says this, I should do this, and my neighbor says this, and my job needs this, and the others need that. How do you get through that to figure out what you really want?
Asking yourself what works for you, getting to know what are your boundaries, because you're important. If you're a parent, it's important for you to take care of yourself, because if you're agitated, if you're depressed, if you're anxious, if you're angry, you're not going to be caring for others in that way, and you're not going to be a great role model as you like to be. So you need to take care of yourself to be the best. You got to be your priority. And then you got to prioritize every element of your life and put it in a specific place. You don't have to be a super mom or a super dad. You can ask for support, and you can find the support that suits you. A lot of people want to give you support, but those supports might not necessarily be the type of support that suits you. Pick and choose the supports that that suits you, so that it can be added value versus sucking your energy to even pushing back the supporters, in a sense. So I think those are important to get. And the person you need to get aligned with is your partner.
Yeah.
The partnership needs to get aligned out of all the information that is coming or pulling from outside. If the two of you can get aligned, and then you could they can foster this kind of ambiance in the family that you can move forward with, regardless of who says what. But getting support from the teachers from school, getting support from your parents if they're there, so getting support from therapists, and even as when the kids are young, all of these supports are there for you. Plus, books, podcasts, latest research that are out there, so that you could feel like you have information, and then after the information, you implement it. You might gain an information and you implement it, and it doesn't work for your family system, for your child's temperament. It's okay. Go to another one, change another one, and to finally figure out what works for you and for your family. All information out there they're general. You pick and choose what works for you.
So this is a decision we were talking about, and preparing to make that decision. And if someone says to you, comes in and says, well, I've gone through everything, I've looked at all this, I've talked with my partner, we've come to figure where we want to go, and right now I'm just not, I think I may decide I don't want to be a parent yet. That's okay too, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's okay not to choose this path. And I know that people experience like they're going against their evolutionary purpose, or that, they have to face the society constantly telling them, oh, how come, either to be judged or, kind of like looked upon as like, poor you, how come you couldn't have it, as if this is something you have. When you are true to yourself and you know that this is not your path, I promise you, you're doing the next generation a favor. Because if you came to this process resenting it, hating it, you're going to create generational trauma after you. So if you honoring yourself is great. I think the problem becomes with when one partner wants the child and the other partner doesn't. Whether this happens overall with the family that doesn't have children, or that maybe they had their first and then the second or third, they're like, nope, I'm not having it. So that becomes a conflict between the couple, which they have to go to couples therapy and really resolve so they can both choose one path without resenting the other one because one person took it. But if somebody just says, they're single at this time, or they're with a partner and they agree that they don't want this. And with couples who choose not to have a child for the rest of their life, usually they start looking at different types of projects they can do together, right? They have pets that they take care of. They create businesses together. There's so many different layers of like uniting and creating a mutual project together, which keeps them, moving forward, and they have a very happy life together also without having, or they kind of flow and they take care of their nieces. So they're not fully responsible for having a child, but they enjoy everybody else's children, and they become their godmothers or their godfathers and a part of somebody else's life to be fulfilling for them to to be a role model for, and to give what they can, their wisdom, to another human being.
I really love that. When I was young, I had an aunt and uncle who never had kids, and they were, wonderful people at our house. They were, I don't want to say I was their surrogate kid, but they had dogs, and they had a farm, and they had their nieces and nephews, and they were happy.
Yes. I also, before we end, I just want to also share with people who are going through the IVF process, this is a very emotionally draining process. And I just want them to know that they need support, because it's like, oh, I'll just take hormones and this, that. And they have no idea what those hormones does to their body and psyche. It really affects them in mood-wise a lot, up and down. And then it also affects their relationship. So I really, really suggest for that process to get support. Plus that if the IVF, they get all excited, they're waiting. The whole world is waiting for this. And if it doesn't work out, that, the disappointment, it sometimes is very traumatizing for them. And, I've had to really work through traumas for people who have had to go through this. So this is, although there's an excitement about, the science allowing us and supporting us to create that, the path toward it is not that easy. So please, please, please get support for that.
That is so important. Wow. We just blew through our time, but I do want to, I want to ask, especially in these, like, some more, I don't want to say dangerous or harsh, but difficult issues. They do need help, and everyone needs help. And so if someone wants to get a hold of you, can you kind of reach out and talk about how they can get a hold of you?
Of course. You can always find me on my website, foojanzeine.com. And we have an app. It's Foojan app. It's on Apple and Google. And it goes through 32 areas of life. And it does go through like the relationship with your partner, your children, your body image, yourself, your career, 32 areas. And, I developed a model called Awareness Integration Therapy and Theory, which we put this app from that perspective. It also has an AI generated chatbot, which you can ask a question and it does answer you from my model. So that's always a support for you, even if you can't. It's more like a self-help support that is there for you to kind of go through some of these questions and journal. It's like a guided journaling, asks a lot of the question for you to go through that process. But if not, just call me or foojanzeine.com, and I'm available. All the social media is available. So me and a lot of the therapists that I've trained into the awareness integration therapy, they could be at your service anytime you guys need it.
I love it. I love it. Again, since we're out of time, we're going to have to wait to the next one. And I just appreciate so much your being here to talk about, am I ready to be a parent and working through those internal questions. And not just a birth parent, but step parent, adoptee, they all have those same kind of questions. So thank you so much for talking about that.
And I want to say, for anyone who even asks this question, I appreciate you, because many people just jump in without asking this question. So even if this question comes up for you, I appreciate you. You're becoming an aware, awakened person in a sense.
I love that. I love that. And everyone else who joined us today, thank you for joining. Anyone with any further questions, you can get yourself connected with Foojan. You can also post it here. We can get you connected with Foojan